Welcome to Film at 50, a podcast that celebrates semi-centennials in the world of cinema. I'm your host, Brian Rowe, and on today's special bonus features episode, I'm excited to welcome Ryan DePesa to the podcast to talk about Miss Congeniality, which is celebrating its 20th anniversary this month. What do we think about that, Ryan?
I think that's shocking. When you first reached out and said that it was 20 years old, I don't know. There's not many things that make me feel old because I still feel young, but that made me feel old.
Yeah. So did you see this in the theater? You saw it later when it was out on video or DVD?
Oh, I watched it on VHS with my mom.
VHS.
Yep.
Yes.
We were late adapters to DVD, so we definitely rented the VHS from Blockbuster.
Okay. Yeah.
It was a family movie night for us.
Nice. Yeah, I still remember going to the Hollywood Video. It was around 99, 2000. And I said, when are you guys going to get DVD? And the guy looked at me and he said, we're not getting DVD. That's not happening. Get out of my way.
Get out of here,
and
nerd.
then within, 2-3 years, it's only DVD.
Yep. Yeah,
VHS
was got
gone.
phased out.
In the 90s, it was all VHS and get your Laserdisc player, and then Laserdisc was over in like 2000.
Yeah, there was HD DVD and Blu-ray also.
Oh, that's right. Later on, I got an HD, like the HD DVD one, and I think I got like 4 discs or something. And then within a year, it was like, oh, Blu-ray. Let's switch over. So to get us started, Ryan, I just thought if you could just kind of introduce yourself to our audience here, just tell them kind of what role has movies played in your life, in terms of your career, like what role has the film world played in your life?
Yeah, probably the ultimate role. I grew up in Illinois and studied film. I knew kind of from a young age that I wanted to be in movies to some degree. And when I was growing up, I thought I wanted to be an actor because I thought that was the only role kind of available.
Nice.
And then as I learned more and saw more movies, I started to gravitate towards writing, and then I studied that in college, moved to LA, met a lot of miserable writers, decided I should do something else, kind of fell into marketing. And now I work on trailers, which is really interesting because it's kind of telling the story in short form. And I've been doing that for about 10 years. So I've worked on a lot of movies and worked on a lot of trailers. Some of them live, some of them die because we're always competing against other people making trailers.
Do you have like a famous trailer like that people would really know that you worked on? Any that kind of
Yeah, I was a producer on the trailer for Us and Get Out.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I remember the Us trailer. Get Out was huge, but then like there was so much anticipation for his next film. And I remember when that dropped and it was like, oh, this is going to be good.
Yeah, there was a lot of pressure on it. And we recomposed the I Got 5 on It melody that like the way that caught on to the zeitgeist was very, very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're looking at, usually on the podcast, we're looking at films from 50 years ago. Today, we're going back 20 years to talk about Miss Congeniality and the career of Sandra Bullock, my all-time favorite. Where does Sandra Bullock, rest in your favorite actresses? Is she up there pretty high? Is she one of your favorites?
She would definitely be a top 10er for me.
Yeah. You have like an all-time favorite actress?
Yeah. I mean, as a gay man, I don't rank women very often, but I would say my all-time favorite actress is Kate Winslet. But I would say
she's in my top 5.
I dare say Sandra Bullock's probably top 5 for me.
Okay, she'd be in your top 5. Yeah, Kate Winslet, Sandra Bullock. I love Goldie Hawn. Meryl Streep, of course, is like one of the ultimate.
Yeah.
Probably the most prolific of all of them, Meryl Streep. She just keeps bringing it. We just did a review of The Prom, and she was just in another film by Steven Soderbergh that dropped last week. I mean, I just
watched The Prom last night. That woman just gets younger, just like Sandra Bullock. Like when you said that this movie was 20, I would believe you if someone said
if this was her today.
I know she could make a sequel to it tomorrow. Play the same character and the same age.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about the sequel, Ryan.
No.
Miss Congeniality 3. Now we're talking. Yeah. She's made 2 pretty bad sequels. I feel like she should make up for those and do a third Miss Congeniality and reunite with Keanu. Do a third Speed. Come on, why not?
Why not?
Send
it straight to Disney Plus.
If Whoopi Goldberg's going to give us Sister Act 3, How about a Speed 3?
Yeah, we get Hocus Pocus, Hocus
Hocus
Pocus
Pocus
2.
2
Like,
is coming. Yeah. So
I think
where
there's
were
the Troop
so
Beverly Hills 2.
so any memories of the film world of the year 2000, 20 years ago? I've got a list. I actually went and just found like it's up in the Dropbox, like it's not even on my computer, of like my old, starting in 1997. I was doing the Siskel Ebert out of four
You did your top
stars
10. Yeah.
top 10. I did every movie. I would go on my computer at starting at what, like age 13. I would go and like give it a star rating out of 4. I didn't do out of 10. I did the Siskel and Ebert out of 4 stars. So I've got my I've got my list. So you want to hear my top 10 of 2000, Ryan? Here were my favorite films, and one of them is so embarrassing. I looked at this and I gasped. I was like,
I'm excited. Bring it on. I hope it's like
okay.
Geely.
No, it wasn't Geely. So 2000. So this was, of course, the year Gladiator won Best Picture at the Academy Awards. Steven Soderbergh won Best Director for Traffic. And then who were the top two, the acting ones? Russell Crowe won for Gladiator, and Julia Roberts won for Erin Brockovich. Gladiator, I gave 2 stars. It wasn't on my top 10.
I think that's fair.
And a lot of people
and you know
love
what?
that
You know
movie.
who also didn't like that movie though? Roger Ebert.
Roger Ebert's review of that is classic. Have you seen that clip where he's with Joyce Kohlhewick, who loves it? She's like, "This is one of the best movies ever made. What's wrong with you?" And he's kind of looking at her like,
no, he was throwing that movie shade for years afterwards when they would do their top 10 and like, what's going to win the Oscar? He would always go back to Gladiator. I don't know how it pulled it off. But...
yeah. So, my podcast, we're looking at films from 50 years ago. That's kind of the main thesis of the podcast, is like, how has film changed over the last 5 decades? But I also like to celebrate other anniversaries too, like 30th and 20th and 10th. 20 years is good. I feel like 20 years on, you can really go back and appreciate a film and see, has it held up? What, some films haven't, some films have. I've got a film on my top 10 that is not held up very well. So here we go. So number 10, I put Castaway, which is a solid film.
Yeah,
the Tom Hanks movie
probably still holds up. I can't say that I go back to it very often, but I feel like I have a clear memory of Wilson.
It's not one you watch every other weekend. Yeah. Castaway. It's like such a great like vehicle for Tom Hanks as a movie. Is it like the best film he's been in? Not so much, but
it was also a great vehicle for volleyballs.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, ready for this? Number 9, Scream 3.
I would put that on my list for that.
I am a huge Scream fan. I actually think the third one's probably the least of the 4. Like, if I had to rank them now, but I still really enjoy Scream 3. It's like the funniest of the 4. So that one's, I don't know, that one's pretty fun. Number 8. Is
that the one where Gail Weathers has the choppy bangs?
She's got the bad hair in 3.
Yeah.
Her best hair by far is number 2. Like, her hair looks amazing in the second one. Yep. So I've seen like they're doing Scream 5 right now, or they wrapped it. And her hair looks kind of similar to how it looked just like in 4. It doesn't look to be like anything brand new.
It hasn't evolved, and she hasn't brought back the Rachel.
Yeah, exactly. Number 8, Unbreakable. The follow-up to The Sixth Sense. Did you like that one, Unbreakable?
Ooh, yes. I saw it, and I worked on Split, which turned out to be a sequel to it.
Oh, right. Yeah. That was really cool. Like the Split, and then Glass came late. Glass was even more of a sequel to Unbreakable. He had been talking about doing a follow-up for many, many years. It was kind of fun to see it finally come to fruition. So that was really cool.
Yeah, it was really interesting and kind of a surprise. But Unbreakable itself I remember it being good. I haven't revisited it. I remember being very creeped out by it at the time. It's
creepy. Yeah, there's like an ominous kind of tone to that film that I really appreciate. I need to rewatch it. It's been a while. Almost Famous is number 7. I would probably put that as number like 1 or 2 or 3 now.
Yeah, that one probably aged the best out of most of the movies that year.
Yeah, I watched it again on its 20th anniversary in September, and it still holds. I mean, there are chunks of that movie that are just like perfect. Like, you wouldn't change a frame. It's just like such a great film, such a fantastic ensemble cast.
I had a visceral reaction to you saying that movie was 20, and then I realized all these movies are 20. So.
Yeah. You're like, wait a second here. How old does this make me? Number 6, I picked X-Men, which I wouldn't put that on my top 10 of 2000 now. It was fine. I think the summer of 2000 was not great for blockbusters. It was kind of a rough summer. And I think by the time I got to mid-July, and X-Men was an actually like solid action film, like I was like, okay, this is great. But I think it was coming off of like a lot of Battlefield Earth and
Right.
a lot of clunkers that summer. I was like, oh, can I just have something decent?
Well, and it was back at a time when it was rare that you would get a decent comic book movie.
Yeah,
So
yeah, they weren't every other week like they are, not this year,
yeah,
but years prior, right?
right.
So there was that, and then Aaron Brockovich, number 5. Do we like Aaron Brockovich?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It
That's
still
it.
comes up all the time.
That's one of her strongest roles for sure. I mean, I think if she was going to win the Oscar for anything, I think that one made the most sense. So, like,
Yeah. It always takes me back to The Simpsons, though, with Homer Simpson calling Marge a regular Karen Olatovich.
but it still holds up, and it's a great vehicle for her, and she's really, she's funny in it. She's got some great dramatic moments. I know watching it again recently, like it's a very like written film. Like sometimes when she's talking, you can like hear the screenwriters like typing away.
Oh, yeah.
It's like nobody would
yeah.
say that in real time, but it still works.
No, it's very Aaron Sorkin-y in that way.
Yeah, exactly. Number 4, What Lies Beneath, with Michelle Pfeiffer and Harrison Ford. That I would not put in my top 10 of 2000 now. It's still it's fine.
Yeah. I have a little nostalgia for that movie.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to see Harrison Ford play the villain, which he almost never does. And they're really great together in it, but it's too long. I think it's like 2.5 hours. It's just too long.
Yeah,
I think
it's definitely too long. I revisited it recently and it drags.
There's chunks of it that drag, especially that first like 45 minutes where you think the movie's about one thing and then it's, oh no, it's actually a ghost story.
Yeah,
I think it was kind of a thrill the first time, but after that it doesn't hold up.
Exactly. I think it's made for one viewing and not two.
Yeah, exactly. All right, here's the embarrassing one, Ryan. Number 3, Pay It Forward.
Oh boy.
With Kevin Spacey and Helen Hunt and Haley Joel Osment.
I was going to say, is that the Haley Joel Osment movie? I never saw it, but I remember the commercials.
Yeah, this was a time where I was a big fan of American Beauty, a big fan of Kevin Spacey. Oh, he's in a new movie. It's a new drama. Yeah, I'm in. Yeah, no, that way.
No.
I've been kind of the last 20 years. I've been separating myself from Spacey and American Beauty. That film I loved at the time, but it doesn't hold up very well now.
Yeah,
so,
it's for the best too.
I would take Pay It Forward off of that list. And then number 2, The Gift. Have you seen The Gift? It's the one with Kate Blanchett where she's like the psychic, and it's got Katie Holmes and Keanu Reeves and Hilary Swank, and Sam Raimi directed it. It's kind of an obscure...
I have seen The Gift.
Okay.
I've seen that movie.
It's kind of forgettable. And how that ended up at number 2 on my list is crazy. I don't know why. I don't know what happened there.
I just can't believe it overcame Wolverine. Or not Wolverine. It was X-Men back then.
Yeah, exactly. My pick for my favorite film of the year, Ryan, I still stand by it. I still think it's a great film. Not a lot. It's didn't do very well with critics at the time. I still love it. And that's The Family Man, starring Nicolas Cage and Téa Leoni. The Christmas
Never
film.
saw it.
Oh, you never saw it. Okay.
No.
It's worth a look. Nicolas Cage, we think of him a certain way now. But there was a time where he was in some quality projects here and there. And this is a drama. He's not being funny or over the top, right? He's just playing like an ordinary guy. It's like a really sweet kind of Christmas film. I really enjoyed it. And then of course, like a year later, I saw Requiem for a Dream, which would be number 1 for sure of 2000, but I saw it later after I made the list.
So technically it's a 2001.
So Miss Congeniality did not make my top 10. How dare myself.
That's kind of crazy.
But all 3 of her films I gave good notice. So Sandra Bullock had 3 films in 2000. Sandra Bullock is one of those actors who she'll do that sometimes. She's had a lot of years in her career. Well, she has 2 movies, sometimes 3, sometimes 4. There was a year she was in 4 films.
That's Sandra Bullock overload.
So Sandra overload. So 1993, the year before she made Speed, she was in 4 films. The biggest one was Demolition Man with Sylvester Stallone. That was kind of like her mini breakthrough. And then Speed really propelled her forward.
In every way.
1996, she's in 3 films. She's in Tooth by Sea, which is not very good. A Time to Kill and In Love and War. 1998, she's in 3 films. Hope Floats, Practical Magic, and she voices a character in The Prince of Egypt. And then 2002, she's in 3 films. She's in Murder by Numbers, Divine Secrets of the II Sisterhood, and 2 Weeks Notice. It gets exhausting, Ryan. She's, it's funny though.
I mean, she has like 50 movies on her IMDb.
Yeah, she's in a lot. And then of course, probably her most like her craziest year of all was 2009. That's the year that gave us The Proposal with Ryan Reynolds, which is really fun. All About Steve, which is her worst film. I think. Like post
Well,
Speed.
I'm glad I haven't seen it then.
Post Speed, like after she became famous, like she's in some clunkers like very early on, like 89, 1990, like those movies are not like you can't even watch them, they're so bad. Like after she became famous, I think her worst like high profile film is All About Steve with Bradley Cooper. She won the Razzie Award for Worst Actress of the Year. Rightly deserved, but it was okay because the following day she won Best Actress at the Academy Awards for her third film of 2009, which was The Blind Side. Which, as her biggest fan,
yeah, I'd say that balances out.
Yeah, it balances out. So as one of her biggest fans, I went to see Miss Congeniality or The Blind Side in 2009. Hearing buzz that people were into it and saying she might get a nomination for this, and I walked out of The Blind Side and I was like, she was okay. She's not going to get nominated for that. And then she wins.
That was kind of my opinion too. And then she won.
Yeah.
But like, I consider that one of those career Oscars. Like she
it was
it
right
for so many roles.
I think it wasn't. Part of it was her performance. Part of it was the success of The Blind Side, which made almost $300 million in the United States alone.
Yeah.
But I think a big part of it was just it was kind of like a career award of like, wow, you can do comedy, you can do drama, you bring in the audiences, you've been really consistently, fantastic for 15 plus years. Here's your Oscar, Sandra.
Yeah, there's always some of that momentum of like, we all just want to watch you dress up and give that speech. So here is your trophy.
Yeah. I just wish Jesse James hadn't been a part of that whole that whole circuit, right? And then after that, I want to say after Blind Side, she's not as prolific, right? The last 10 years, it's been a little bit quieter. She had, of course, one huge success in Gravity, which came out in 2013. And then The Heat did really well. And, her most recent film from 2018, Bird Box, was a huge hit on Netflix. We'll never know what it would have done if it had just been released in theaters. but people were watching it. People were watching it over Christmas.
Everybody watched it.
Yeah, that was a hard one to miss, right? She has wrapped a new film that's I think currently untitled. That's coming out sometime in 2021. So she has one more in the pipeline. So that'll be coming soon. It's a drama, so it'll be great to see her do a dramatic role again. But going back 20 years, Ryan, to Miss Congeniality, what were your thoughts when you first saw this movie? Were you a Sandra Bullock fan at the time? What do you remember kind of liking about this movie at the time?
I mean, I would say generally Sandra Bullock already had a lot of love in my family, and I'd say in the Midwest, she's a known commodity. Like she's safe. She's in a lot of movies. She balances comedy and drama very well.
Mm-hmm. She sells tickets.
Even back then. Yeah, she sells tickets. She's somebody you can put on a poster and know what you're going to get. And it's probably going to be good unless it's not.
As a huge fan of hers, she has made some stinkers.
Yeah. I mean, everybody does.
Yeah, everybody does. Yeah.
And I would say even in the stinkers, even in the stinkers, she was probably the best part.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. She makes, outside of All About Steve, which is rough, she usually makes it worthwhile, even if it's a mediocre story or script or whatever.
And everyone saw Speed, and this was back in the time when you would watch movies over and over and over again. So everyone's seen Speed over and over and over again, and probably to their detriment, Speed 2 Cruise Control.
Oh, Ryan, I have stories.
I have stories. She had a lot of love.
My friend, I was such a huge Sandra Bullock fan in '97 that anybody who would listen, I'd be like, Speed 2 Cruise Control, June 13th. And then it comes out and it's just it's just a big stinker. And you're like, oh, sorry.
Yeah, it was not what anybody expected or wanted.
And she's not even in it that much. I think that one of the big problems is, of course, they didn't bring back Keanu Reeves. But then she's in maybe like a third of the movie. I mean, there's chunks of that movie. It's just Jason Patrick running around, going after the bad guy. And you're like, I don't care about this guy.
Yeah. It didn't feel like the sequel got the love from the talent that that it
Yeah.
needed.
Yeah. But as she has said in
Um,
interviews, that the kind of the flop of that movie kind of propelled her into some more interesting material. Like she could have just gone on and done another 5 action films. And I think the failure of that movie allowed her to kind of, choose some smaller films and films like Hope Floats and 28 Days, and then become a producer with films like Miss Congeniality. So I think there were some good things that came out of Speed 2,
yeah,
even though it's not a really fun time.
but yeah, she like Julia Roberts is somebody who like I'd say both of them had similar like momentum going into the year 2000, which was a great year for cinema, and both of them. And
Oh
and
yeah.
yeah, I remember renting the VHS and watching it with my mom and thinking it was really funny. And then it became a movie that my family would pop on over and over and over again.
Oh yeah, it's one of those like if it's on TV, aren't well, like you'll just watch the rest of it, right? I mean,
Yep.
the last watching it again, I hadn't seen it in many years. Maybe I saw clips of it here and there on TV and stuff, but the last 30 minutes is really fun, like of this
Yeah.
movie. So if it's on
I mean the
TV,
whole
I'll
thing.
watch it.
I watched the whole thing. It's all good, and also it's an interesting movie because it is like a female driven rom com, but
Hmm.
there's a lot of straight guys who find it very funny and appealing. So
Yeah, well, you have a lot of beautiful women, the whole
yep.
movie. So
So
um,
it threads that needle nicely in a way that like the whole family can watch it, and it's a safe space.
Yeah, so around 99, 2000, Sandra Bullock was specifically looking for, she was a big fan of Jim Carrey, and she was like, where's my Jim Carrey vehicle? I want a Jim Carrey movie, like for me. And so she was looking for projects and things here and there, and Miss Congeniality came about. And I feel like in the wrong hands, this could be a deadly, dull, terrible movie, right? Like
Oh
if
yeah,
it wasn't Sandra Bullock, if the screenplay had been I mean the screenplay isn't going to win any awards, but watching it again, there's a lot of really good plantings and payoffs. There's a lot of really fun dialogue in this movie. This story itself is pretty clunky. It could have been
yeah.
terrible.
No, it's not winning best screenplay by any means,
Yeah.
but definitely it got a star that breathed some life into the material and
Hmm.
certainly like balanced like the necessary charm
Yeah.
and like the charisma that you need to actually pull this off.
Hmm.
And she could be both crass and like prim and proper, and I think
this is
that
this is
balance
one
is
of
what
my
worked.
this is one of my favorite performances of hers. I mean, this is one of those where if somebody didn't know who she was, right? Like I feel like this would be one of the top 2 or 3 I'd want to show somebody who's like, I haven't seen a Sandra Bullock film. Like, what would you recommend? I would probably show them this one. This is a great one to show off her comedic range, like the way she plays the character in the first half hour versus how she plays it in the last half. Like it's really
Yeah.
feels like 2 different people, and she does that really well. It's hard to make her look ugly. You know?
Yes. And she never, I mean, to be fair, she never looks ugly. She just looks
No.
a little disheveled. And then
Yeah. Well,
and
when
then she
she's at
gets
when
the
she's at
best
the
team in the world to make her beautiful.
well, when she's at that bar and she's like eating the ice cream and her hair is just a mess and she's got a big old orange stain on her shirt
Yep. I
and
think
she's kind of
she's
and she's
getting
making
chip
faces.
faced.
Yeah, she's getting chip faced.
Yep.
And
That was
she's making
clever.
those snort noises and like those weird, I mean, she does everything she can to look unattractive.
Yep. And she does a great job. She's doing her best and she still looks great, but she's
So
doing
what
her best at doing
yeah.
her worst.
Yeah. So what other things do we like about Miss Congeniality? What like revisiting it again? Like what did it make you think about? Like what still works about this film?
I think there was a lot of like female empowerment that I
Hmm.
think holds up very well. I think when she like in the climax when she can't do her talent anymore because all the girls drink her water because I guess they're parched. She goes out on stage and demonstrates that this beautiful woman that she's become by just waxing and putting on a dress um, can also be this like tough girl,
Hmm.
badass, and she flips the detective on his back, and the crowd
Yeah.
goes wild. She's not supposed to get in the top five, and she does because she's strong and she proves that you can be both. You can be this
Hmm.
beautiful woman, and you can also be this tough FBI agent.
Yeah, I feel like she's a great role model for younger women in this movie. Like the way the transformation of her character, the way I mean, there are serious moments. And I forgot how many dramatic moments there are. Like that scene where
Yeah.
she's telling her boss, Ernie Hudson, like, no, I want to stay. I need to stay here to protect these girls who I love. Like she, has her stance in many, many
Yep.
scenes of this film. She never just kind of like dips her head and, oh, okay. Like,
No.
she's really
She's
strong.
very
It's
strong.
great. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons why this film has lasted for 20 years, because of that portrayal. I think it's really important the way she plays it that way.
Yeah, and she's the only person who can make you laugh while she's got like tears in her eyes. I don't know how, but she's such a good actress, and she's so great at walking that very, very fine line. That, like, she won Best Actress for this movie. She just won it late.
Yeah. Yeah, this is really the Oscar. She won it for Miss Congeniality, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, how many other actors can do what she does in this movie? This is not an easy acting job. I feel like what she does in Miss Congeniality is much harder than what she has to do in The Blind Side. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah, in The Blind Side, she just put on a little Southern accent and just gave a couple pep talks.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think she's really, really strong in The Blind Side, but I feel like it's kind of like, kind of one note for most of the movie in terms of what she's expected to deliver in that performance, whereas Miss Congeniality, much more complex, not just in her physical transformation, but the way she changes as a character too, like emotionally, is really, evident on screen. And watching it again, I really could see that. And this is one of her strongest performances, I think, for sure.
No, for sure. And to your point earlier, this movie could be terrible, and it is not.
I mean, the whole plot of like Candace Bergen's the villain, and she's gonna blow up the winner of.
You could stop there. That's terrible.
I mean, it's like, and they're gonna put the bomb in the crown. I mean, it's so stupid. If you stop and think about it, you're like, what? I mean, there's I mean, you can kind of get her motivation. Oh, they fired her and she's going to get back at them, but like, she's going to do it this way. Like, and her son's on board, and William Shatner doesn't have any clue. I mean, I don't know. The whole thing, when you really stop and think about the plot of this movie, it's very silly.
It's pretty convoluted. I mean, it's about her. If you think about it as about her and her evolution and what she does to take the bad guys down, then I think and it works.
But it moves along fast enough. You really fall in love with her right from the beginning, that once you're on board this movie, you kind of just forget that the plot, and you just go with it. It's just a lot of fun.
She falls down a lot, and I think that makes her very likable.
Do you think she falls down like once too many, or do you think it's just the right amount?
I was trying to count when I was rewatching. After she fell in the first scene in her apartment, and I think it ended up being like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
So maybe once too many, but in general, I would say she became charming and likable right off the bat.
One of her best scenes in the movie is that one you're talking about. So I listened to the commentary. She actually does a commentary on the DVD with the writer, and I guess in the screenplay, all it said for that scene when she comes home after that initial opening kind of action sequence, with one of the people she works with gets shot, and she's feeling very bad about this. Her boss is upset with her. When she gets home, all it said in the screenplay was she walks in upset and goes and boxes. That's all it said. And she makes this whole like minute and a half like play where she's not only boxing and tripping over stuff, but I love how she makes dinner. It tells you so much about her character, how she just rips open the freezer, takes out the tray. What is she like? Goes like this, just make some holes, and
she sticks a spatula in the microwave to jerry rig it.
Yeah, and then she shoves it in the microwave, and it won't shut. So exactly. I mean, that is some great physical comedy that wasn't even in the script. She just came up with it. So that's pretty great. That's something that not every actress would have thought of, at the time.
Yes. And I mean, that tells you so much, because a script doesn't go into that kind of detail, and that's kind of up to the actor to fill in the blanks. And she created a character, and we know that character without her saying anything.
Yeah, it tells us so much in that minute and a half, and I think it's all done in one take too. It's all done just like as a master, and she just goes with it, and it's really fun. I love the Starbucks joke, even though before the punchline you see the Starbucks. Like if you look on the left side of the frame, like before the punchline, that was speaking of trailers, that was the opening joke of the trailer. If you ever saw that, I mean, I remember seeing the trailer before the movie came out. The opening joke was she's on a mission. She's in her, and then walks in and, all right, I need some Starbucks.
Oh yeah, I watched the trailer in preparation
Oh,
because I was
okay.
like, okay, normally I watch a movie and then I jot down notes and I'm like, okay, how do we make a trailer out of this? But on this one, I was able to rewatch it and then go back and be like, what did they make a trailer out of for this?
It can be
And
it can be really fun to watch old trailers. Oftentimes they'll have deleted scenes and
yep, I
deleted
caught some of
moments.
that.
And sometimes it'll be like the same line of dialogue from the movie, but it's said differently in the trailer, which is always
Yeah.
crazy. Like one of my favorite movies is Death Becomes Her. Have you seen Death Becomes Her with Goldie
Oh yeah,
Hawn and Meryl
I
Streep? It's
watched
one
it
of
recently.
Oh, you did? Okay. So that movie ended a whole different way before they came up with the final scene where they're old and Bruce Willis has died. Tracy Ullman had like a huge part of Death Becomes Her that was completely cut out of the film. And the ending was different. And none of that footage has survived, but some of it's in the trailer. If you look on YouTube, watch the Death Becomes Her trailer, you can see Tracy Ullman. Like you can see some of the scenes. So that's like our
Oh
only
wow.
way. That's our only way to see some of that missing material. And Miss Congeniality has Edward Herrmann from Gilmore Girls played her dad in a scene, which is a deleted scene on the DVD. And we get a snippet of it in the trailer. Do you remember what he says to her in the trailer?
He asks her if she's a lesbian,
He
I
says,
think.
"Honey, are you a lesbian?" And she says, "I wish." Kind of a
And then
funny.
I think she snorts. I think she goes.
Yeah, kind of a funny little moment, and everything around that in the deleted scene is like not of interest. So I could see why it was cut. Like that's the only
Yeah.
little memorable bit, and then everything else
When I
is
was
just
watching the trailer, I was like, where was the scene? And then light bulb moment, I make
yeah.
trailers and I'm sure it was a deleted scene.
Yeah. On the director's commentary, apparently there were some scenes with her mom early in the movie too, and her mom passes away or something before like the main events of the film, and I guess it was too serious for audiences at the time, so they cut that subplot out. But that's not on the DVD. That always kind of fascinates me when
Yeah.
some scenes are added and then others they just don't even bother.
Yeah, I'm never sure. And then maybe that has something to do with like contractual obligations
Mm,
with the talent
yeah.
and whatnot. But yeah, that's strange. And I'm sure it got taken out because of focus groups or whatever was happening at the time.
Yeah. And then there's one other deleted scene that I enjoy. Well, there's one where she's just like dancing and learning like the dance for the, for the pageant at the end. But then there's this other scene where they actually go meet with Miss New Jersey. Like there's a scene where they like go talk to the woman and say,
Oh,
"Well, this is why you're in this porno, so you can't compete."
which was Arma Get It On.
Armageddon. Which is great. Very 2000, right? That would have been 2 years after Armageddon came out. So
Yep.
doesn't like I feel like today it's not as funny as it would have been in 2000. But yeah, so as with most films, this is a film that had some deleted moments. She's solid in the deleted scenes, but I could kind of see why they're not in the movie. The film is fairly long for a comedy. What was it, like an hour and 45 minutes, 50 minutes, something like that?
Yeah, I think it's
So
pushing 2. It doesn't
yeah.
feel long. I would say that.
Yeah, I've watched some 2 hour comedies that really feel it, and this one always to me feels like 90 minutes. It doesn't feel 20 minutes longer than that. It moves pretty quickly, I would say.
I was actually surprised when I started playing it when I saw the little bar at the bottom and it said almost 2 hours. I
like
in my head this is a quick 90, but
yeah, exactly. And I feel like most comedies should be around 90 minutes. If a comedy is 2 hours, there should be a good reason for that. I mean, there's
they
going to
have a
be
good reason.
exceptions, but yeah, in this film, I think 90 minutes would have been too rushed for this movie.
Sandra Bullock is acting her butt off. That's the reason.
Yeah, and there's such a great arc to her character. I think another director, another screenwriter might have rushed through those opening scenes. Let's get to her reveal of like, beautiful Sandra. That might have been earlier in the movie, but I feel like with other people involved in the production, I like that it takes a while. We really get to know her as Gracie before the transformation, I think makes the movie better.
Yeah. And I think that definitely helps with her arc because she doesn't look that terrible. Like you kind of get to know her personality more, and she's not this woman. She's not this woman that she needs to be for this pageant anyway.
Yeah. So one of my other favorite things about this movie that still holds up and their relationship in it is so great, and it's Michael Caine is great.
He's so good. I forgot he was in this movie. I forgot he was in it.
Yeah.
And when he shows up, I was so excited, and he's great.
His first scene with her is hilarious. The way he just looks at her while she's eating the steak is so great. Like that's an example of a role that could have gone to a lesser actor, but they went big with Michael Caine. He had just won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for the Cider House Rules in the spring of 2000. I believe his first project after winning that award was a Miss Congeniality. So there's some funny like bloopers in the featurettes on the DVD of every time he messes up a line, Sandra Bullock looks at the camera and says, "Take away the Oscar." It was fresh in everyone's minds at the time, right? So I feel like that
That's
would be kind of
awesome.
odd. Like you're acting alongside someone who just won the Academy Award and they're flubbing their lines, and you're like, "Take it away." Doesn't deserve
Sandra
it.
is the professional here.
Yeah. Who would have thought that she would be winning an Oscar in less than 10 years? I honestly, at the time, as a huge fan, I never thought that was ever going to happen. I didn't think she'd ever get nominated for anything, really.
And I think at the time, comedy had such a stigma towards it, and she was a comedic actress for the most part.
Yeah.
So yeah, I never would have thought she'd even get nominated. And then when she got steam on The Blind Side, I was rooting for her.
That was, oh yeah, it was, it was kind of I wouldn't say a weak year. It was just like one of those years where there wasn't like a clear favorite. Carey Mulligan and Gabourey Sidibe and Meryl Streep hadn't won in so long, but she's only in half of Julie and Julia, so it felt kind of weird to reward her for a film where she's only in half the movie. So I think it was just one of if I think about it, I think if The Blind Side had come out in 2008, there's no way she would have beaten Kate Winslet for The Reader or Meryl Streep for Doubt. There's no way. If the film had come out in 2010, there's no way she would have beaten Natalie Portman for Black Swan. So I think it was just a matter of the right timing. It was the right year. She had another big hit in The Proposal. I think the one she should have won for, which we'll talk about at the end here, is Gravity. we'll definitely get to that.
I agree.
Yeah, but what else about Miss Congeniality do we like? I really love Candice Bergen in this movie. She's a lot of fun, even though I can't remember if I thought it the first time. It's pretty clear early on she's the villain. Like it's kind of like if you're paying attention to the way she talks to that part where she's like, if you do that, like I'm gonna kill you, and there's just something about you're like, okay, she wouldn't be saying that if she wasn't behind this in some way. And that
maybe that's just the datedness of the movie, and maybe they wouldn't do that today, but it's more than foreshadowing. It's really it's just blatantly telling us she's the bad guy.
And they don't even hide it that long. I mean before like the pageant's even starting, like they reveal it's her and her son. They don't leave it till the very, very end. It's not like Scooby-Doo, like the mask comes off. But I love her line. This is Texas. Everybody has a gun. My florist has a gun.
Yeah, I was actually shocked. That's the end moment into the title on the trailer, and I was shocked that it was that and not just her like, I have gel in my hair, I'm armed, and that's in the trailer, right? When she falls, like when she comes out. Yeah, they use it earlier.
She is so stunningly gorgeous in that scene. Like they really went all out.
That's really the money shot. Like, usually when I'm watching a movie, I'm always looking for like, what's the one thing that's going to stand out in everyone's heads. And like, that's the no-brainer to me, is like the ender for everything.
Yeah. I mean, it really is a wow moment. We all know she's beautiful, but like, it's like, whoa, it's like, Benjamin Bratt is taking off the sunglasses and he's like, holy, like, and you really buy it. Cause I think anyone in that position who had known. Also,
even Michael Caine, when he sees her, Michael Caine's like, damn, I'm good.
Yeah, damn, I'm good. Even after she's fallen and made a fool of herself. Benjamin Bratt is fine in this movie. He's never been one of my favorites. I mean, he does what he needs to do. One of the like 2 or 3 things that still doesn't work for me in this movie, their romance is a little bit forced. What do you think of their kind of relationship? Yeah. I mean, it's okay. It doesn't take the movie down.
When it works, I think it really works, but it kind of comes out of nowhere. Like they feel like frenemies, and then it evolves. They feel like
friends. And when they're making out at the end, I'm like, like I feel like the kiss isn't earned as well as it is in some other films like this. I don't know.
No, but I don't know. Her chanting, like, I think
that's fun.
You want to kiss me. Like, after that, I'm in. Clearly,
Yeah.
they have a thing. I just missed it. I missed how it evolved, but I believe it.
Yeah, and what I think works about it is that they're not in love. He's not like, it could have really ended poorly with him. Like, this whole time I've really been in love with you, Grace. Like that would have been horrible. It's kind of just like, hey, we can go out to dinner if we happen to have sex afterwards, so be it. And it just feels a little bit natural in that regard. I don't know. There's something about it that doesn't like go all the way, but it's okay.
Yeah, and he obviously thinks she's pretty enough to send her on the mission, and then
Hmm.
there's some sexual tension in the wrestling scene that goes on forever, where
Yeah.
she decides to do it.
I like that scene
Uh,
where they're trying out all the people in the dresses, and he's got like Ernie Hudson in the dress, and like he's
yeah,
he's he's like he's like laughing, and then he's standing right behind him. And I'm like,
that
what
was,
was
I
this
mean, that was
was
shocking.
this technology available in 2000? I don't think that was.
Yeah, what was that? That was like the Dress Me Sally
Dress Me
software or
Sally,
something,
Barbie, or something. I'm like,
which I guess,
I don't
yeah, in
think,
that world, I guess is Barbie.
but like, I don't think you could do like the full on like dress like
Well,
in real time like that.
I'm not sure how it like decided what your legs look like
Yeah.
under your clothes,
What
or like,
skin color you have. It's like
yeah,
it's too perfect.
it was really, really smart software. and,
For
and some
2000.
and
Yeah.
somehow they merged it seamlessly into the FBI database just by saying they could.
Yeah. So what I think, Ryan, that dates it a little bit, that I didn't even really realize that this was a part of it watching it. There is a little bit of homophobia in this movie, and the big moment is when Benjamin Bratt realizes that Michael Caine is gay and kind of coming on to him, and his just it'd be one thing if he was like he's like full on terrified running out of the restaurant, and that I
Oh
was like,
yeah,
okay, that's too much.
but that was probably pretty accurate to the year 2000.
Exactly, right.
This is a
Yeah.
period piece now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a big part of the, looking at films in 1970. It's like, whoa, like
Oh yeah.
there is some stuff I've watched where it's like, oh my gosh, how do we even talk about this? This is bad.
I mean,
So,
I think Miss Congeniality was pushing it already, even having a gay person as a main character. So
yeah, yeah, and he's not made a fool of. He's a strong character. He plays a big role in the narrative, and we
no,
all
he's good
really
at his
love him.
job, and
Yeah,
he's sassy and lovable. So in that
yeah.
respect, I like him a lot, and
So
he's
it's
fancy.
so it's yeah, it's definitely great in that regard. We have that moment of Miss New York shouting out her love for her girlfriend in the audience, right? We're like,
That's right. I was actually
lesbians can
really
make it.
excited about that. Yeah.
So yeah, and then Sandra's like, "Woo!" Like she's clapping. Like,
Yeah.
so it's not it's not an anti-gay film or anything. There was just that moment, and then there's one later where Michael Caine's pretending like Benjamin Bratt is his boyfriend to some lady, and Bratt's like, "Oh no, I'm not with him that way." There's a little bit of that. I'm like, okay, we don't need this, but it is exactly 20 years ago. Things were a lot different. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
I think the problem is just Benjamin Bratt. He's very insecure with his sexuality
yeah,
in this movie.
he's very handsome in this film. I mean, he looks really good.
He looks great. And that one scene where he steps up to like tower above her and then is flirting, and then instead of going in for the kiss, he eats his candy bar and walks away. That was hot.
Yeah, he's always eating the candy bar. And that other scene, he's eating the donut, and then he's like
Yeah.
ripped and looks perfect.
No, he looks great, but he gets to eat whatever he wants while she's forced to eat celery.
Yeah, exactly. That's a funny moment too. I love when she throws the celery at his head.
Yeah.
Which I guess the director said he didn't tell Brat that she was going to do that, so it makes his reaction even better. um, what else about so I really like the dramatic moments between Sandra Bullock and Michael Caine, but I feel like the movie does work better as a comedy than it does a drama. I mean, some of the the girls hanging out, that section's kind of fun, but I feel like when it tries to go too serious and the music really lays it on thick, I feel like it doesn't work as well in the breezier, kind of funnier scenes surrounding those moments. I don't know about you, but
Yeah,
I
it's
like the
also just
comedy
that
better.
we're not here for the drama. Like, we want to walk that line so we can take this situation seriously, but we want to laugh more than
Yeah.
anything. We're watching Miss Congeniality.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah, but I get, thinking about it, I was like, well, you do need some dramatic moments. It couldn't just be like Airplane all the way to the end. Like you need like some real moments of these characters. We're not looking at a spoof or a slapstick. I mean, there's some
No.
slapstick, but I mean, this is about like, her character's a real person. Like we really want to identify with her and root for her, and so it needs that. But I felt like like maybe 2 or 3 lulls in the movie where it's like, all right, let's get back to the funny stuff.
And you have real actors here too, so they probably all wanna they want their dramatic moments.
Yeah, exactly. One of my
But
favorite lines of the movie is, tell me about your favorite date, April 25th, which I think is a meme on Twitter, right? Every April 25th, that I
oh
see
yeah,
that somewhere. It's perfect. It's a great day. All you need is a light jacket. That's one of my favorite parts of the movie. And on the commentary, the screenwriter said that he actually got that from a real like telecast. Someone actually did that. That wasn't made up.
that's awesome. It's inspired. I would say that has aged very well.
Yeah.
It's still funny.
Yeah, that's a really great moment. Any other like scenes or lines from this movie that stick out to you as being one of the strongest? Anything that you really, really enjoy about this one?
Like the montage of all the girls saying "world peace," and then
Yeah,
and
that's right
then
before that moment.
yeah, Sandra Bullock's answer to the question is like harsher punishment for parole violators.
Yeah,
And then after a long pregnant pause, and world peace, and then the audience erupts, and it's amazing.
that line, like perfect comedic delivery. The way
Yep.
she kind of goes, and like the way she delivers that line is perfect. It's like just the right amount of time. It's the right pause. The way we cut to the audience is looking at her like really confused, and then they're just roar of applause. Like
Yeah.
it's done really. That's one of the moments in the movie. Like that line is perfectly done.
I agree. It's masterful, and you can also see like both characters that she's created coming out. Like you see her FBI agent who's answering the question, and then in the pregnant pause, she realizes, "Oh no, I'm Gracie Lou Freebush right now," and then she says, "And world peace."
Yeah. Yeah. So that I love that. Yeah, I love that part too. William Shatner is really funny in this too. We haven't really talked about William Shatner. He's a blast in this movie.
I forgot he was in it until he showed up. And then I was like, this cast is fire emoji.
Yeah, he has some funny like he has great chemistry with Candice Bergen. They like work really well together in the movie. That's really fun, and he has some quips throughout that are really really funny. So yeah, he's great in this. Usually not like, wow, I really like William Shatner in this movie. I usually don't say that.
No,
But for this one, it's the perfect character for him.
He's also, I don't know if you noticed in the background, it's not really, they don't make a big deal out of it, but he like waxes poetic on that song. Like he continues to rhyme, like she's beauty and she's grace, she's blah blah. Like he continues to think of like synonyms for what this girl is while all the chaos is unfolding at the very end. It's kind of amazing, and it's just there. It's not really, they don't milk it. It's just in the background.
Yeah. So let's talk about kind of the last third of this movie, that the actual pageant. I love that opening when they come in and they start with like the slow dance. Sandra is like really concerned about, or Gracie, really concerned about, what's going to happen. Is there a bomb going to go off? So she's got two minds, but then she's also out there like swaying to the music. And then she does that, they do that full on like 1 in a million dance where they're really going for it. And the way that scene is shot, it's got great energy. It's always really fun to watch that sequence in this movie.
Yeah, and she like blends into the girls kind of seamlessly.
Yeah.
She does an actual good job. I kind of expected her to fall on her butt on the stage, but she pulls it off.
Yeah.
It did not seem like she was nailing the rehearsal, but she got there in the end.
So she does fall again when she's picked as one of the top 10, or is it the top 5? I think it's the top 10. Then she falls again, and when she stands up, her hair is just like a complete disaster.
Yep. It's top 10. She fake cries and falls. I have it written down.
Her best fall in the movie, I think, is when she hits the bus. Remember when she's just like walking, like, so when she
she's gliding?
So it's after. So that's a great moment too, when she like, I'm gliding here, which is a nod to Midnight Cowboy and Dustin Hoffman.
So good.
Which she does another nod to Hoffman later. She does Rain Man. So there's 2 nods to Hoffman in this movie.
Wow, I did not put that together, but it is there.
So yeah, should have gone for 3, Sandra. Yeah, but so when she first comes out, the big reveal, slow motion, she falls, of course, and she's like, I'm good. That's kind of, that's okay. But it's the right after that when she's getting on the bus with all the other women, and Candice Bergen's kind of like leading her forward, and she does like a full on just boom, like tramples into. That's the best fall.
I belly laughed at that, and it's just a prat fall, and it got me.
Yeah, that's my yeah. She falls a lot in this movie. I think that's number one. I think that she falls again. Then off screen she does it again. Like you hear her hit the ground the second time. Yeah. So that's she's doing some like silent film comedic work there.
Yeah,
Just
and
like
I think
physical.
Candace Bergen, she added to the humor in that scene for sure because she gives a look at her that just tells you everything.
Yeah, just like total frustration and
Yep.
so yeah, that's probably my favorite fall of the movie. In terms of the end, watching it, like it's really well done. Like the last 30 minutes of this film, of the pageant, the way it's cut together. How long do those usually go? For 2-3 hours, but we're truncating it to like 15 minutes of the film. And so you kind of have to move it along. And, the way the screenwriter sets it up, like, oh, she's going to have to do the water glasses again, which is also a funny scene where she jumps on that guy with the gun.
Yep.
But for her to not just repeat that, now oh crap, they're drinking the water. What do I do? The way that unfolds and is kind of like a, tie into what we learned about her before and how she knows all of these things about how to protect herself. There's a payoff in that scene where Brat comes out to help her out, and
Yeah.
she just
it's
beats
actually
him up.
this story is not great, but that moment, like, it's such a great culmination of all the parts.
Yeah, and there's a lot of moments like that in this movie. A lot of like plantings and payoffs. The whole thing about it's not a beauty pageant; it's a scholarship program. And there's like 15 or more references to like it's never it's yes. Both of those have a great payoff at the end when she's putting Candice Bergen away in the car. And so there's like, this is not the worst screenplay of 2000. Like there's some like they're doing some stuff in this script that's for a comedy of this.
This is pretty much the gold standard of comedy.
This is a solid script for, I mean, as silly as it is, and if you stop and think about the plot, it's really stupid. Like there's some stuff going on underneath the surface here. This is not just like a first draft that they put into production. Like there's some thought put into this screenplay. Yeah. And then she just takes it and runs with it and makes it
circle.
and makes it, 10 times better just with her, inhabiting the character. So yeah, anything else about I think the suspense still works because we know that a bomb's about to go off and Sandra Bullock knows. And so she's trying to grab, like she's trying to save her friend, but her friend thinks,
oh my gosh,
that she's trying to grab her crown.
Everybody thinks she's trying to grab the crown. Like all the girls are pulling her back and it really works. It feels like she's not going to get it off her head.
Yeah. And then her just like the crying that she does, she's like, and like punching Texas in the nose, and it's a fun sequence. What brings
Texas
it down
is
a
like
little
the
bit?
Unsung hero of
She's
this whole
great.
movie.
Yeah, let's talk. Any other? Yeah, I mean, obviously Rhode Island's great. She has the most screen time in the film, and that actress would go on to co-star with Sandra Bullock in 2 Weeks Notice 2 years later. And then Miss Texas is great. She's really funny. When she finds out she's second runner up, the look on her face is priceless. Yeah. So I think that they got a good group of actresses for this. Really could have been super one note, right? Like they got a good group of actors who most of them I haven't seen in other films since, but did great work on this one. What brings it down a little bit, Ryan, every time is when she throws the crown before it explodes, looks so fake. It kind of takes me out.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. I don't know what's going on in that shot.
What happened there?
I remember even back then, you had more forgiving eyes. You just did.
Yeah.
But even back then, I remember thinking there was something wrong there. And now seeing it again, the VFX don't hold up. I don't know what's going on. I'm not sure.
It's like I mean, it's a kind of a quick cut, but it's like a big CG effect of the crown, and you're like,
yeah,
like, are they trying to let the audience know that she's throwing a crown? They might be confused. She clearly has the crown in close up in the previous shot, so we know she's throwing the crown. It was just kind of a weird. It was kind of a weird thing.
That's the problem. I think they did some sort of visual effect thing, and it just wasn't a visual effects movie. And whoever they hired did not nail it.
Yeah. I do like in that moment because I don't think he does it at any other point in the movie when Benjamin Bratt shouts, Gracie! Like he calls her like Gracie, like he really cares about her in that moment. I didn't really super buy their relationship, but I thought that moment works really well in that part instead of just calling her Grace or like Gracie. Like he does not want her to get hurt. So that moment plays really well. And then the actual explosion, looks great. It's just
Yeah.
the shot of the
I feel
throwing.
like that was a practical. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. So I think that's a very, I think of, if the film were made today, that shot would look much better. Yeah.
I mean, it seems pretty simple. I think we could pull it off.
Yeah. And then the last scene of the movie, I think it sticks the landing really well. They talk on the DVD, the commentaries about how there were like 5 different endings. They couldn't quite figure it out. And I think where it ends is the right place, right? We see Gracie. She's back in her clothes from the beginning, but now she's more feminine. She's really coming into her own in that last scene. And her final speech where Sandra's tearing up, it still gets me. It's a great final moment. And then a callback to the world peace from one of the greatest jokes of the movie. Just a great final minute and a half of the film. Wouldn't you say?
It's another one of those just like perfect culminations of everything. And she can
Yeah.
be strong, and she can be feminine, and
Mhm.
she can tear up talking about this scholarship opportunity.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, comedies are tricky. Sometimes the comedy's great until the last 10 minutes, and then it just doesn't, like the last scene, the last 2 scenes don't deliver. And so you walk out kind of disappointed. You don't walk out disappointed in this one. It's a great final
No.
scene.
And I really like that she didn't win, because that would be really unlikely. But I like that we got to feel like she won, because she got something.
Yeah, exactly. You're absolutely right. She doesn't win, but we're okay because she does kind of win in that last scene. Yeah. She really does. And so
that's my favorite thing in any movie. If you can give it to me both ways, like I want like the sadness of losing with the excitement of winning. Like, I want both.
Yeah, exactly. Which can be tricky. The Family Man, which was my favorite film 2000, has a story where like the end, there's no way for it to end happy. And a lot of people's problem with that film is they kind of try to do that, try to have it both ways. For most people, it doesn't work. I think it works okay. A lot of people don't like the ending of The Family Man, which I won't give away. But I think Miss Congeniality is a case where you do get it both ways and it works beautifully. Yeah. So anything else you want to say about Miss Congeniality? I think we've talked about all the major elements of this movie. We've talked about most of the best scenes. Anything else that we didn't mention? No, the soundtrack's great. I still have the soundtrack on my iTunes, by the way. I've had it for 20 years. I've had it for 20 years. Yeah.
No, the soundtrack was so good.
Mm-hmm. And we didn't mention the director, Donald Petrie. He did a solid job on this. Not like a really big, a strong like directorial stamp or anything, but he does a really fine job kind of keeping the movie going. And the pacing of this is strong, the editing's really strong. So yeah, I mean, all the people involved in this one, costume design, really fantastic.
I think it's just interesting to watch that time. And I mean, like the homophobia thing, there's like some sexism, especially in the FBI, that I don't think aged particularly well. But I mean, like when you're watching the whole FBI department like objectify women, either like from the surveillance van when they have cameras in the changing room, or when they're trying on virtual dresses, it seems like something that could never happen in a movie today, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's mostly all men. I think there's one other woman like we see like when she's at work, like it's mostly men, right? So she's just kind of like one of the boys, and it's gonna take this mission to really show the true person she is on the inside and on the outside. So yeah, I just really it's not the greatest movie of all time. It's not even one of her like 2 or 3 greatest movies. I still think it's one of her best performances. It really showcases her talent in a way that few of her other films do.
It's great, and it's extremely watchable.
Oh yeah,
you can watch it over and over again.
Yeah, it's got great rewatchability. It's super fun, and it just breezes by, and it's a great ensemble cast, and really fun. Really, it's celebrating 20 years. December 22nd, Ryan, December 22nd, 2000, this movie came out. Was a big hit at the time. It made over $100 million. This was her second feature film as a sole producer. Her first film as producer was Gun Shy, which was a huge flop. It just came and went. Nobody saw that one. Liam Neeson and Oliver Platt. That was at the beginning of 2000. But then this film was a big hit over Christmas, made over $100 million in the US, and really kind of set her career on fire, and did really good things for her producing career. And then she actually got a Golden Globe nomination for Best Actress in a Musical Comedy for this movie. Did you know that?
Oh wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, so I mean, she obviously didn't get an Oscar nomination for Miss Congeniality, but she got a Golden Globe nomination. Yeah,
No, that's pretty
she
impressive.
lost to Renee Zellweger for Nurse Betty.
Oh, it wasn't
Which
even Chicago yet.
wasn't Chicago yet. Yeah, that was like the run of like every year Zellweger was winning, 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 and then she like went away, and
Yep.
then she came
And then
back for her Oscar for Judy.
yep.
So before we talk about Sandra Bullock's career in general, we do need to talk about the sequel, Miss Congeniality 2, Armed and Fabulous. Before we started recording, you told me that you saw this one in the theater. Do you remember the sequel very
Yes.
much?
The first movie convinced me to see the second movie in the theaters, and boy was I disappointed. I honestly
Yeah.
can't tell you anything about the movie except for the title. To me, it's on the same scale as Legally Blonde, Red, White, and Blonde. I think it should have never. The first one's great. It should have never been made.
Miss Congeniality 2 doesn't really ruin the first movie for me because I don't think about it very much. It's like this own separate entity. It's not like it relates very closely to the first movie at all. It's its own separate thing. And so I just don't really think about it very much. And, you know, when I watch Miss Congeniality, I'm not thinking about the sequel. Like I have to remember that movie is a thing,
Right.
you
Yep.
know?
I think it's easily forgotten and probably best that
Yeah.
way.
She's extremely unlikable in the sequel. It's like one of her least like likable performances on film. Like she's kind of arrogant. She's like a superstar, right? In the second one, she's a big celebrity. And it just doesn't work from the beginning. There's something off about it. It just doesn't work. It's not funny. Regina King is okay and as kind of taking over like the Benjamin Bratt role in a sense. But she's fine in it. It's just it just didn't come together in that one. It's one of her
I
least
think
films.
honestly, she should probably stay away from sequels.
She has said that in interviews, right? She's like, they were asking her about doing a sequel to The Heat with Melissa McCarthy, and her response was, "I've done 2 sequels. I'm not going to do another one."
I think she's
like,
smart.
I think that's the right way to go. Like
Yep,
unless you
she
have a
gets it.
really good script. Miss Congeniality 2 really felt like a cash grab, like, oh, well, people will show up. And I did. And I was like, this is not
I did too.
good. She did much better work a few weeks later. She would show up just briefly in Crash, which would go on to win the Best Picture of 2005.
Yep.
She's great in Crash, which one of her strongest dramatic performances, even though she's in like 6 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, but she's got like the biggest head on the poster. So
Yeah. Yeah, speaking of trailers, she is all over that trailer, even though she's in the movie just very briefly.
Yep.
So yeah, just I mean, if you've seen Miss Congeniality 1 and you haven't seen the sequel and you're curious, don't bother. It's not worth it. It's really, really, really bad.
Yeah, cannot recommend.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about Sandra Bullock's career a little bit, and pick our 3 favorite films. Going back to kind of her breakthrough of Speed to now, like what are some of your favorites? What really kind of hit the mark for you, Ryan?
Practical Magic, classic. I have a lot of nostalgia for that movie, and I've
Yeah.
rewatched it recently. I think it still holds up.
Yeah.
I
That
think
is
her and
actually
Nicole Kidman as like sister witches. I'm in.
Yeah, what's funny? I was so excited for that movie. That movie has never really worked for me, and there's a lot of people who love it. And for me, it's the whole plot of like the Nicole Kidman's boyfriend and dragging him back home and the kind of seriousness of that whole subplot. I almost want it to be a little bit more whimsical of a movie about witches. There's just something
Yeah.
about it that never
It's
quite
not
came together.
whimsical. It's very down and dirty.
Yeah.
They are modern witches, and they have sadness.
Yeah, but they're great together, Sandra Bullock and yeah, I mean it's a great pairing with her with Nicole Kidman, and then you have Stockard Channing and Diane Wiest as the aunts, and they're great in it. So yeah, and the scene where they're getting kind of drunk or dancing around the kitchen, that's a really fun one.
I love that scene.
Yeah, so that's a fun one.
Yeah, it's just a lot of fun, and I have a lot of like. It might be one of those movies that you just bring a lot of nostalgia to if you grew up with it.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to watch around Halloween too. Yeah, I mean I don't dislike it. It's just kind of in the middle for me. It's not in my top 5 or 6.
I think she was great in Minions.
Are you ready for this? I have never seen Minions.
Oh my gosh.
I am a Sandra Bullock super fan, and in the weeks leading up to that film's release, I'm like, well, I have to see it. It's her. She's the villain, Scarlet Overkill. And then the
Oh
movie
yeah.
opened, and I was like, I'm good. Yeah.
Well, I've seen that movie a fair few times. That was the first movie I worked on when I went to Universal.
Okay.
And then I actually paid to see it in the theater for some reason. I just wanted to see it. I'm pretty charmed by those little yellow guys, but also she has pretty much the only speaking role in the movie of substance.
Okay. All right, Ryan. Do I need to do it? Do I need to watch Minions as a Sandra
I
Bullock fan?
think
Do I need
I think
to
you should
need to
pull off the
finally sit?
Band-Aid. Like,
Do I need
what
to
could
finally?
possibly be bad about the minions being like shepherded by Sandra Bullock?
Yeah. I mean, I did watch The Prince of Egypt, which she has a voice in, and that movie was kind of rough. I feel like Minions would be a much more fun animated movie. Like one of these days, my nephews are getting older. We'll do like a marathon of the Despicable Me movies, and we'll watch Minions
There you go.
together.
Yeah, you can't do it without the spinoff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that was 2015. That was her first like project of any kind after Gravity came out. Yeah.
Yeah, and that brings me to my favorite. That's Gravity for sure, hands down.
You have such a good choice there, Ryan. Good taste, good taste. Because I can't tell you how many people I've talked to or read online. Like a lot of people do not like Gravity, and
I have run into them, and
I've never understood that. I
disagree.
was having dinner once at school, like before a class, and these like two guys were sitting behind me talking about how it was like the worst movie they'd ever seen, and I'm like,
Oh, I could
I'm
give a
sitting there like,
dissertation on how good that movie is.
yeah, okay, so you're a Gravity fan. That's very good to hear. So what do we like about Gravity?
Honestly, it's her. It's a one-woman show.
It's a one
Like,
woman show, 100 million plus.
yeah,
That
they have
works
a big
because of
budget.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she holds it together. It's a huge spectacle, but she's holding it all
Mhm.
together. And a lot of the times you're just watching her breathe and you're kind of just breathing with her because it's contagious.
Yeah, it is one of the most intense films I think ever. I
Yeah.
mean, it is just you cannot like take them like it is just nonstop. It's very short. It's like 80 minutes, right? It's
Yep.
very short. 90 minutes with all the credits.
Yeah. And I left my car keys in my theater seat because I was like traumatized by the end of it. Felt like we just survived something.
Well, at least she makes it to Earth.
Yeah.
Like if she had perished in the sky, I'd been like, no.
Shockingly, though, that whole time I was like, she's not going to make it. She's not going to make it.
Yeah. Well, there's so much of the movie with just her that I was like, they cannot end this with her perishing. Like she's gonna make it. Like she has to. I mean, this movie costs too much money for them to have her die at the end.
It just seemed like an impossible journey, and it was impossible. But somehow it all works, and I buy it. And her performance is incredible, and there's not a lot of dialogue, but you feel like you know this character and you care for her, and
yeah, and I think one of the masterstrokes of that movie is that Alfonso Cuarón, the director, he could have taken us into flashbacks with the daughter. I love that it's only spoken of. I love that we don't get those flashes of her on Earth with walking hand in hand with her little girl up to school. I think a lot of other directors would have done that, but I like that. No, we are in space the whole time. We don't get to have flashbacks.
I mean, you might need to do that to build emotion with like a lesser actor, but you have someone here who's given you everything that you need to know and feel and experience with her on this 80-minute incredible journey.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like even more so than Miss Congeniality, I think Gravity is a case of like, I don't know how many other actresses could have pulled that off, just in terms of the physicality, the emotion. We really respond to her right away. The first 20 plus minutes, she's like, you can barely even see her, but we're still kind of on board with her. And, her journey, both emotionally and physically in that last hour is so compelling just all the way through. And, there was talk of Angelina Jolie playing that role. I think she was attached to some at one point. And I really like her as an actress, but she's a little bit cold. And I don't think she would have, done as good a job.
No, Sandra Bullock has a more, I don't know, she's inherently root-worthy and
charming
and relatable.
Exactly, right? There's just something that comes through with her in that. And I just think she was the right age for that film. It was the right time in her career after the Oscar win, after she had the chance to work with a couple really strong directors. And
But I will say the age she was in that movie is the same age she was in Miss Congeniality and is now. Like she never looks
yeah.
different.
You know what blew my mind? I was thinking about this watching Miss Congeniality. She was younger than I am now in Miss Congeniality. And I was like, oh my God. That's crazy. I don't want to even go there, Ryan.
Yeah.
There's still how old she was in Gravity. I still have some years.
The only difference with her is that sometimes she has bangs.
That's right.
That's it.
All right, so those are great choices. So some of my runners up, I really love Wrestling Ernest Hemingway. Have you ever heard of that film? It's her and Robert Duvall and Piper Laurie and Richard Harris. It's this kind of small drama. She plays a waitress. It was kind of her last like little tiny movie before Speed came out. It's hard to find. It's not easily accessible, but it's worth a look. She's really good in it. Really strong film. What are some? I love The Net. Have you seen The Net?
No.
What you haven't seen The
movies?
Net? Oh, you gotta watch The Net.
Where did these movies live? The dark web?
So The Net's pretty. That was a pretty big film. That came out the year after Speed, and that came out in the summer. And yeah, it's kind of a cheesy techno thriller that's very dated. It's about the internet.
Sure.
It's about the internet circa 1995, right? So it's pretty dated. But it's a lot of fun. And if you like Sandra Bullock at all, it's like she's the show in that one. She's like in the whole movie from beginning to end. It's really fun. What are some of my other favorites? Infamous. If you're a Sandra Bullock fan, seek out Infamous. Do you know that movie, Ryan?
No.
She plays Harper Lee, the author of To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh.
This film came out the year after Capote, which was the big, critical darling. Right. Philip Seymour Hoffman won the Oscar.
I saw Capote.
Yeah, so Catherine Keener played Harper Lee in Capote in 2005, and then around the same time, they were shooting this other very similar kind of film about Truman Capote and his relationship with Harper Lee and writing in cold blood. It's different in tone, but it's kind of the same story. So it's hard for the studio to sell it because we'd already seen Capote. But Sandra Bullock plays Harper Lee, and she does a great job. It's one of her finest acting performances. Like she's only in a part of the film, but it's actually really if you're able to really distance yourself from Capote, if you haven't seen that in a while, like just look at Infamous. It's like a really interesting film. It's got Sigourney Weaver and Jeff Daniels. Really great cast. Daniel Craig before he was James Bond. It's a really good cast. That's a good one. I love The Proposal, of course, with Ryan Reynolds. That's a really fun one. Great ensemble in that movie.
Definitely.
Our Brand is Crisis. Not a great film. Kind of tonally all over the place. But I think Our Brand is Crisis is one of Sandra Bullock's strongest performances. Nobody saw it. It came and went.
No.
Nobody talks about it. And the problem is the movie itself is kind of mediocre. But her performance in it's really strong. So it's one of those, kind of like Hope Floats and 28 Days. Right. The movie itself doesn't hold up very well. She's really good in it. And then the most recent film she's in that I love, and that's Bird Box, which was her last film on Netflix. Did you like Bird Box?
Bird Box was so fun. It was every time I see leaves falling from the tree, I'm like closing my eyes.
Yeah. And my favorite genre of film is horror films, and Sandra Bullock had never really done anything kind of close to that. She's done a couple thrillers, like she's in Murder by Numbers with Ryan Gosling. She's in Premonition, which is a terrible movie. Another bad one. But Bird Box she finally got it right. Kind of a thriller, a horror film, supernatural, great director, Suzanne Bier, and, great script, and another fantastic ensemble, John Malkovich and Sarah Paulson, all these great people in it. And she's really, really, really fantastic in that movie. And I've watched it 3 times, and it's nice to just have it there on Netflix. I can just turn it on if I want. It's just right there.
I wish they were all on Netflix. It would be easier.
But that leads me to this question, Ryan. So movies that premiere on Netflix, like Bird Box, it never went to Blu-ray or DVD. So those are just always going to be on streaming. Like we'll never get a physical release of films like that. Kind of disappointing in that regard.
I don't know. Sometimes you can buy like The Crown on Blu-ray. Okay. So maybe you can hunt down the Bird Box. I certainly have never looked because I have it on Netflix.
Like I would love to have a physical Blu-ray of Bird Box with like a director's commentary, deleted scenes. Like I don't know if that exists. I would love for that to come out. I don't know if it ever will. But
right, and I guess Netflix never puts like commentaries on there, but
Yeah, they
But it would
should.
be nice to have those options.
If Miss Congeniality can have 2 audio commentaries, I feel like Bird Box should have 1. All right, so my top 3, Ryan. Number 3 is While You Were Sleeping. That is my favorite comedy with Sandra Bullock. Have you seen that one?
I haven't seen While You Were Sleeping.
Oh, if you like Sandra Bullock, you have to see While You Were Sleeping. That was her first film post Speed. And is it like the strongest like comedic film? Like Miss Congeniality is funnier, but there's just a sweetness and a charm to her performance and While You Were Sleeping that really just makes it fantastic. It's a good Christmas film. It's set around Christmas. Another great ensemble cast, such fantastic people in that movie. Well worth your time, Ryan. If you're a fan of Sandra Bullock, it really showcases her talent to a great degree in that film. Yeah, really fun.
I'm sold.
And then my second favorite was my favorite film from like 94 to 99, and that was Speed.
I mean, it's a good choice. It's hard to talk about her without Speed.
That movie, that's the first film I saw her in. I didn't get to see in the theater. I wasn't allowed to see R-rated movies in the theater just quite yet. I was a little too young. But I did see it when it came out on VHS and watched it over and over and over and over.
Yep.
It holds up to this day. It's a great thrill ride. It's so much fun. She has great chemistry with Keanu Reeves. It's an absurd plot, just like Miss Congeniality, but it's so much fun. It never,
and she makes it work, and
she just makes it work. I mean, there was talk of Halle Berry or Ellen DeGeneres playing that role before she came on board, and
that wouldn't work.
Wow. Great casting choice to bring her on board, because she wasn't really a name yet in 93 when they shot it. So they were kind of taking a chance with her on that one.
No, and she actually adds a lot of levity to the suspense, which is nice. Like every time it cuts back to her frantically driving the bus, like it's intense, but also you're laughing at this woman who's like in way over her head.
Yeah, it could have been too intense. It could have been, I feel like if Speed had been like Gravity, it wouldn't have worked. Like we needed some levity in Speed, and I think her banter with Keanu Reeves, even in moments of tension, like really work really well. And I mean, Benjamin Bratt and Sandra Bullock do not have the romantic chemistry that Sandra and Keanu Reeves have. It's just like it's incredible, their chemistry in that film, and to a smaller extent in The Lake House, their other movie together, which they're barely in together, which is disappointing. But it's definitely it comes through better in Speed. And just to open with the elevator action sequence, and then the bus, and then they go to the subway at the end. And Dennis Hopper is a great bad guy. He always has been, like Blue Velvet. He's so good in Speed. He really makes it work. Just everything about it I enjoy. It's really fun.
No, and all the action set pieces, they hold up, and Keanu Reeves looks about as good as he ever has.
Oh yeah, he's so handsome in Speed.
Yeah,
he looks great with the short haircut, and when the bus is like exploding, when things are blowing up in Speed, it's not CG. We're seeing things actually blow up, and you can tell.
Love that. It all looks better than the crown being thrown in Miss Congeniality.
Yeah, exactly. Much better, yeah. And then of course my favorite Sandra Bullock film is Gravity. I'm right with you. I think that was a film. As a huge Sandra Bullock fan, I was waiting 20 years after Speed, almost 20 years, for a really great film for her to be in. And when she won the Oscar for The Blind Side, I thought maybe she'll finally work with some great directors, because if you look at her filmography, the directors she works with, I mean, they're fine, but there's no like really big like auteurs or so. When she got after The Blind Side won her Best Actress, the Oscar, she quickly soon after that signed on with Stephen Daldry on Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, which is not a movie that I like very much, but she's good in it. In the very little what she's in, like 20 minutes of that movie. But then signing on with Alfonso Cuarón, who Children of Men is such an astonishing film, which was the movie he made before.
Yep.
So I was really excited, and there was so much secrecy. Like they shot it, Ryan, in early 2011. And then it didn't come out. I know they shot
it so long before it came out.
They shot it in like early 2011. It came out in October of 2013. So there was like 2 years of like nothing, like no images, no trailers. And, we finally got a trailer. I want to say it was like June of 2013. We finally saw some like clips from it. So that kind of actually helped build up the buzz. I just was like, what is this movie? It's her and George Clooney in space. And what is this? And what we got, far, succeeded my expectations. I love this film. I watch it. I've seen it 5 or 6 times. It's so good. She's so great in it. I love the score, which won the Oscar. Alfonso Cuarón did a great directing
score is
job.
beautiful.
And you can tell that Alfonso Cuarón spent 4.5 years making the movie, and you can feel it. Like, he does everything just to the max, and it's a gorgeous looking movie. The computer, the CG, it just all looks fantastic. And but then right in the center we get her all the way through, and it's her by far finest acting job on film, I think.
No, and it would be a challenge for absolutely any actress.
Absolutely.
Meryl Streep might struggle in that role, which
Yeah.
I am hesitant to say, but it's tough. And she really, really pulls it off and engages you the whole time. And who would have thought Miss Congeniality could go to space? But
yeah, I mean, Sandra Bullock is not thought of as one of our great actresses by any means, but when you look at her in Miss Congeniality, in The Blind Side, in Gravity, and some of these films, like, she really is a great actress, and I think we forget that sometimes.
She has range. Not a lot
Yeah.
of actresses could do Miss Congeniality and Gravity and still have time for Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close and The Blind Side. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Great.
Yeah. So, Ryan, I just wanted to sum up here. I just want to say this was an absolute thrill to talk about Miss Congeniality on its 20th birthday, its 20th anniversary, and the career of Sandra Bullock, one of my all-time favorites. This was such a thrill. Just to end here, Ryan, if you can let us know, how our listeners can find you online, if they want to reach out to you, where can they find you on the interwebs?
Yeah, if you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm at Ryan DePesa. That's RyanDepesa. And I'm also on pretty much every other social platform to a lesser degree at the same username.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being here, Ryan. This was a lot of fun. And thank you all for listening to Film at 50. We will catch you next time. Thanks a lot.